Today I'm going to talk about another one of my journeys with ayahuasca, a journey which resulted in one of the most beautiful, healing and deeply profound experiences of my entire life. Here's my story. So here's a little bit of backstory just to set the scene. I was back in the jungle in Peru for the second year running, but this time I'd contracted flu the week prior. And so by the time I arrived in Iquitos, I was feeling like utter shit. I mean, this wasn't just any regular flu. This was apocalypse level, military grade, mutant super flu, and it sucked. I basically hadn't been out of bed or hardly eaten for the week leading into this trip. The travel to get to the jungle had been a nightmare, and combined with my illness, by the time I got to Iquitos, I was stressed, I was sick, I was tired, and I was starting to have panic attacks. Not the best start on the path to enlightenment, but still I decided to weather the storm and go through with the retreat. But after a few days, I was still feeling really crappy and having some major regrets about coming. So the first two ceremonies were really difficult, and that's a different and thoroughly unpleasant story. But what I'm going to talk about here is ceremony number 3, or what I've come to call my spiritual experience. Now, going into this ceremony, I felt like I was finally recovering from the flu, and mentally I was in a much more positive place. So I dug deep, found my courage, and when the shaman called my name, I walked over and drank a cup of ayahuasca. The first thing I noticed was the maloca beginning to sway underneath me, back and forth like a boat on gentle waves. And this didn't seem like some kind of internal dizziness inside my head. I could actually feel the inertia of movement on my body. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The voice of paranoia began to whisper in my ear. "You've done it this time, you fucking idiot. You've drank too much of this shit and now you're going to suffer for it." But no, I thought. This is what I wanted. I chose this. And immediately, as if in answer, the swaying began to intensify. Now this was no longer a drunken wobble, the whole place was swinging beneath me. My gentle waves had turned into choppy seas and a storm was on the horizon. It literally felt like the whole retreat centre was rising and falling as a psychedelic ocean churned around me. The whisper of paranoia became the voice of fear, and it was getting stronger. "I told you! Why did you do this to yourself? Who the fuck do you think you are? You did this to try and be cool and impress everyone back home with your hippie cliche bullshit, didn't you?" I took some deep breaths and tried to put a positive spin on what was happening. Just try and think about it like a hammock swaying in the breeze, I told myself. Or maybe a swing at the park. Just relax and enjoy the ride. Now my attempts at putting a brave face on this were surprisingly effective, and it was stopping me from being pulled under by my own fear. But the lurching movement of the maloca, along with the building intensity of the shaman's ikros, was becoming overwhelming. The pressure was just building up inside me. It was like a steam valve reaching its maximum. It needed to blow, I needed to release. I grabbed my bucket and began to purge hard. My stomach and intestines coiled up like a snake inside of me before violently unwinding and ejecting their contents. Over and over, it kept coming. My insides began to hurt from the constant straining, and each new convulsion would make this horrific, throaty, gurgling sound from the deepest core of my being. The medicine spoke to me. "This is what you've been putting into yourself. Don't worry, I'll clean it out of you, but you cannot keep treating your mind like a toilet." And she was right. I've been filling myself with shit, psychological sewage that just appeals to this reptilian, mindless parts of myself, clogging up my passion for life with sensationalist bullshit on social media about politics and pointless addictions to TV shows and video games that I didn't even enjoy anymore. On the physical side, I'd just been gorging on junk, constantly snacking on chocolates and ice cream, stuffing myself with processed garbage until I felt sick to my core. This needs to stop. Your mind is the most precious thing you have. You must take better care of yourself. I found a temporary respite from the purging, so I rested my head upon the lip of my bucket and looked out into the maloca. And what I saw was that the room had gone completely fucking nuts. Bright multicolored shipibo vines were pouring down from the ceiling like psychedelic ectoplasm. The shaman was pacing around the center of the maloca like a maniac. It sounded as if he had 3 different voices coming out of him, all at the same time, all singing different songs, all at different octaves, but all coming from the same person. And the words he sent forth commanded the vines to do his bidding, and they began to reach out across the space and slowly creep over my face. Please, just leave me alone, I thought. Let me be for 1 minute. I cannot take this. I was turning my head from side to side to try and shake these vines away, but they just would not stop. Well, that's it. There's nowhere I can escape to. They're going to smother me. And the vines continued to slither over my head, their colourful coils enclosing my being. My field of vision was completely filled with twisting colours and patterns. It was all there was. There was simply no room left inside for the being called me. Fine, I give up. I guess that's the end of me then. And suddenly, with that declaration of surrender, the storm of chaos ends, and there I was, on a calm sea of serenity. So I sat up. The room was bathed in bright light, and even though I knew it must be pitch black, I could clearly see the other participants on the opposite side of the Maloka. The vines began to dissipate, silently retreating into the upper ceiling of the Maloka, where they pulsed and squirmed like the ghostly Cecilia on the underside of a cosmic starfish. And I realised, in that moment, that I was completely at peace. The non-stop internal chatter of work, identity, ego, needs, everything, it just fell away, and there I was, me, the real me. Stress, fear, anxiety, none of it was here, only I remained, and a sense of being part of something bigger washed down over me. I was part of a story which had been told since the beginning of time, since the first human being raised its hand to the sky and had the first conscious thought, which signified the dawn of our species. I felt the hopes and the dreams of my ancestors filter down through the ages, each link in the chain facing their own struggles and triumphs, with the song of humanity continuing to weave and branch through time, creating new stories and infinite possibilities. And here I am. I am a human being. I am part of this story. This is sacred. It means something. Something which cannot be expressed in simple words, but I could feel it. It's about healing. This is why you came. This medicine, it will heal you. I looked straight forward and saw myself, literally myself. I was mirroring my own pose and looking right back at me. Hey, I have something I want to say to you. Don't be so tough on yourself. You've done an amazing job to get us here. Every decision that you have made has brought us here, to this point right now. And just look at where you are, look at what you've achieved. You have a loving family, you've built a great life. I'm proud of you, man. I love you. Thanks, man. I love you too. So I looked at me, at him. I'm choking back tears through smiles of joy. I wasn't even sure which one was me anymore. Am I the one looking in or the one looking out? No, you're both of us, he replied. But listen, you need to take care of yourself. Slow things down a bit. Don't let yourself get so stressed out. Pay attention to what your body's telling you and stop putting all this shit into your mind. This is your most valuable possession. Don't fill it with internet scandals and mindless outrage. That stuff is poison. Yeah, that makes perfect sense, I thought. So my doppelganger began to fade, and I sat upon the edge of my mat and lit him a patcho to try and ground myself. And as I looked out around the room, I caught the eye of one of my fellow travellers, and we smile as the acknowledgement wordlessly passes between us. This thing is fucking amazing. Are you seeing this? All this wondrous imagery pouring across the walls and this simple truth suspended in the very air around us. Do you feel it? How transcendent and timeless this moment is. Can you believe that this is happening? Yes, just yes, it's incredible. What a privilege to be able to witness this, to be able to fly thousands of miles around the planet and partake in something so sacred. What a gift that I've been able to experience this in my lifetime. What a time to be alive in this age of wonder. I felt pure gratitude just radiate through my entire being. The Icaros began to fade and the night was coming to a close. But that feeling of communion with something greater than me, yeah, that will stay with me forever. And that's the end of my story. Thank you all for listening and for being part of this amazing journey that we're all on. 2 things before I sign off. If you enjoyed this story and would like to see some more from me jabbering on about my bonkers experiences in the psychedelic realm, then please like this video and subscribe to my channel. If anyone has any comments or questions about this experience I described, or maybe you just want to share some of your own experiences, then put them in the comments below and I would love to read them. So that's it from me. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.